Black and white and monochrome are not the same thing. Okay, so this week's ramble is about the differences between straight black and white photography and monochrome or toned images. Now, black and white photography is typically associated with sort of like, you know, the lights, the darks, the grey tones, etc, etc. But in many cases, for me, in nearly all cases, there is a subtle tone imparted into those images, which is why they are monochrome. They're monochromatic. They consist usually of blacks and another colour. And in many cases, monochromatic images also incorporate more than one colour, which is actually technically wrong, because then they're a colour image. But split toning of black and white is a common technique where the shadows are toned, whether they're dark or light, and the highlights have a corresponding tone. Maybe it's a complementary tone, maybe it's subtly different to give a mood to that particular image. So toning is used, whether it be digital or whether it be darkroom, to convey a particular message to the viewer. Now, straight black and white images are something which comes obviously out of your digital camera if you set it thus, or if you shoot black and white film. When you shoot black and white film, it's black and white. You can selenium tone film, but that's sort of not something we normally do, to give it a slight tone, a different split. But the film itself renders a black and white image. Now, when we take that black and white image and we put it into an enlarger and project it onto a paper, or whether we scan that digitally and we put it into Lightroom, we have the option of imparting a tone to that image to convey a message to the viewer. And we want to do that for various reasons. Now, the straight black and white image is something I like. I do an awful lot of darkroom work with a traditional paper like Ilford multigrade fibre base, which is very neutral, slightly warm, but you wouldn't know it unless you compared it to another paper, and then there are subtle differences. To everybody's eye, it's black and white. Now, that's how I also process the vast majority of my digital images. I actually don't like to put much of a tone into digital images until I actually got back into the darkroom. The darkroom, for me, gave me more choice and flexibility in terms of toning. Digital toning is nice. I prefer it in the darkroom though. But like I say, since getting back into darkroom printing, I'm happy now to put tone into my digital images. So when it comes to choosing a particular tone, it will depend again on the mood you're trying to convey. I've talked about this in the past. And I like a warm tone. I am a bit of a sucker for a warm tone. Not just a warm tone, I may go what you might consider a bit over the top. I might go for an orangey or a yellow tone, well away from the traditional sort of subtle warmth of a selenium or a dark sepia. And I do that because that's how I feel when I'm out shooting, or that's how I want you to feel when you look at my images. I want them to sort of jump out at you. I want them to be vivid, dynamic. I don't want them to be subtle. They're something which I want you to look at and think, wow, I know what he's trying to say here. I actually feel something in this image, which isn't just as part of the composition. The colour's telling me something. Now, you can use a cool tone, and I have used cool tones in the past, erring towards the blues, etc. It's not my favourite though. There are cool tone black and white papers, easy to cool tone in Lightroom, obviously. You just move the tint down towards the blues. But that will convey cold, usually cold, maybe dark, quite foreboding. Whereas warm tones can obviously lift the mood. But they can also convey moody, rainy conditions. I like to use a sort of an orangey, yellowy tone in a lot of my pictures. It mirrors the lith printing look. Now, the lith printing look is usually very warm and gritty and grainy, and it is fantastically well suited to black and white 35mm type images, which are gritty and grainy. So I will use toning and monochrome in preference to straight black and white. Plenty of times I like straight black and white, but usually I like to impart some form of tone into my images these days. So to sort of get this point across, next week's video, it has me walking and not talking, as I'm trying to convey a mood to you, the viewer. And I do that via the videography, via the incidental music, and via the images, which are heavily toned to convey an image, so a mood. So hopefully have a look at that one next week. I am out shooting next weekend in Wales again, hopefully. Weather willing. I hope it's bad weather, because that's what I like. And yes, so hopefully you'll be getting out and shooting, making the most of whatever conditions you may have to convey the mood via your images. And I will speak to you again and see you again soon on the next trip. Thanks for watching.